Hey Connor, what's up, my friend? How
Hey,
you doing?
I'm keeping well.
Cool. So, thank you very much. You're my first guest on my podcast, so I'm very glad to have you. And
It's an
you've
honor.
been my personal trainer for when I used to live in Hungary, and we became friends. So I'm very glad that you're here. So I have obviously a few questions for you. If you quickly can introduce yourself and what you do and where you come from, etc.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me on. Yeah, as you said, my name's Conor Murray. I'm an Irish guy living here in Budapest for the past like 5 years. I've know you through working as your trainer. My kind of background of how I kind of got into that kind of field. I went to university and studied sports science, strength and conditioning, kind of for sports performance as an undergraduate for 4 years. And then after that, I done a master's degree in coaching science. And that's kind of like all I really ever wanted to do, to be honest, was kind of like coaching because I just like loved like martial arts and training and seeing the benefits that it had in my life. I think I was always quite like unidimensional or like very like singularly focused
Hmm.
um, to like do that as my career. Then basically I think the same reason why you ended up in Hungary and you end up, at this part, Western European guys
Yeah,
like us
exactly.
that find ourselves in these post-Soviet states. There generally is a woman behind things. Basically, I finished my degrees or whatever, and yeah, I was like going out with my girlfriend, partner, Dominica, and she got the opportunity to come over to Budapest to study veterinary and yeah, I was happy to move. I think that's a typical Irish guy thing to do. If you can get away from the rain and see a new culture, a country,
Yes.
then that's
Yeah.
kind of what we do. Yeah, loving it.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah,
That's
checking
awesome.
out.
Yeah. So it's been 5 years, right? You've been in Budapest for 5 years.
It's going to be 5.5. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Long.
Because I remember I got in touch with you just before my wedding because I
Yes,
wanted to be in shape and I was like, hey, man, help me out here,
yeah,
So,
that's it.
yeah.
Help me, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Got the photographer booked, and then the next day you're like, "That's all right." Maybe the same day.
Yeah, absolutely. But how did you get into fitness? Like, what was your
Yeah,
mindset?
like I probably going back into like my original fitness experience was probably I like took up as my main sport kind of jujitsu, traditional jujitsu it was whenever I first started. So
Oh,
the kind of
really?
Japanese self-defense. Yeah, yeah.
Similar to judo, right?
So it all kind of like jujitsu, I think in general, kind of like stems from judo.
Yeah.
Um, Now I could for sure Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which is kind of now the sport that I
Mhm.
actually even prefer, and I haven't done that traditional jiu-jitsu, but I think my original kind of training experience was with some great coaches. Like I had some really really amazing times training. Gabriel McAteer, I'll give him a shout out. My coach, I called him the Samurai
Yeah.
back in the day, but he really just instilled this like really kind of love and passion for training, martial arts, the kind of lifestyle that goes along with it. And I'll not lie, like probably from like as a kid as well, like I think I was always like a more shy, kind of insular kind of guy, or like I would always have been like a lot more like conflict avoidant and like that kind of like a just timid kind of like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
character, and I really like resonated with like okay, martial arts is like this like vehicle or even like in the philosophy of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which is kind of my main kind of sport
Mhm.
now whenever I'm good and healthy. That kind of philosophy that like the smaller guy can with good technique and good training overcome an opponent
Yeah.
that has like all these kind of advantages or whatever. So that just like really kind of hooked me. And yeah, I think like from a personal level as well, like whenever you are that kind of timid guy or whenever you have that like shyness or something, like you are like a bit more of an easy target for like bullying and in general maybe like whenever I had like conflicts within, certain, I'll not get too deep into my specific experiences, but like, whenever, you would have like conflict within, maybe family or different things like that, that definitely was like the thing that made
Yeah,
me
yeah, yeah.
like my outlet was training, and that's kind of like my history of getting into it. Like so, all through school, like like I fucking really didn't have much. Sorry, I don't know how much you'll
No,
let
of
me.
course, mate. Go for
Can
it.
I curse away? Okay,
No,
because
go for
that's
it.
going to be a lot better for
Go
me because
for
I
it.
really
I love it.
apologize a lot. But yeah, basically, like I wasn't that, confident in myself, like
Mm,
all throughout school or whatever. And there are different stuff in life too that I maybe was a little bit down on myself as well. And I always, the one thing that was like that outlet for me was always like sports. I love rugby and jiu-jitsu. So like those two kind of sports were like the thing that I was like, "Fuck, this is what I'm really really like, I feel alive
yeah.
doing." And it's quite funny because whenever I went to a wedding with some of my buddies in Texas, shout out to Keelan O'Gorman and all the LIT guys, but basically we went to college in this town in the south of Ireland, and actually Charles Griffin, the owner of Jack Doyle's Irish bar in Budapest, he's from this town. So no, no,
Really?
no offense to any of you guys from Thurles, all my Thurles people, but basically it's not a very desirable town to live in
Yeah.
or go to college. Like you can go to like the city, you can go to. We had our stag do for Keelan's thing over in Texas, and like, oh my God, San Marcos, the city had like so many, just like, yeah, like students,
Yeah.
drunken, fun ladies, probably like not like nine guys to every one woman was like, that's a plus. But like basically this is Tipperary Turnus, the degree course that I chose. And everybody else from the program is kind of like, oh, like yeah, this was like my last choice. Like I never, like this was
Oh,
like, this was like what, but actually I'm like this like funny exception where, like I just was like, I watched like some videos of George St. Pierre, people that
what a
don't know
legend.
welterweight, like just
Yeah.
legend of MMA, and watching him train, and he would always have been, anyone that's followed him, like he was always so adamant about his, he preps as like an athlete. It's
Yeah.
not just his, martial arts training, but he was doing strength and conditioning, he was doing gymnastics, he was doing all of these other
Yeah,
kind of means
absolutely.
of like general physical preparation. And like that was what actually really inspired me. Like once I seen GSP's
Oh,
training or
really?
some of those,
That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, that was a big one. Like, and then of course, like I had like the like martial arts was my background.
Yeah.
It was what kind of brought me to the dance per se. So yeah, just seeing like, his approach to training, lifestyle, everything, like really
Mm,
inspired me. And actually, it was my first choice to study where I studied. And like, like so many people, they're like, "Oh my God, this place is, wow, whatever."
yeah.
And yeah, not to rag on the town too hard, but it's just like not like it's a small weather-beaten town in the south of Ireland,
Sure.
and not a huge amount of
Yeah.
opportunities. And it is kind of, we had obviously after the 2008 financial crash, a
Yeah.
lot of like the big businesses and stuff. You could see like there's they're not deteriorated, derelict buildings that were, businesses, but they were now out of, service. But basically, that this was my first choice because I just loved the. I read like the prospectus or the course content, and I
Mm,
just, yeah, like that's, yeah, this is exactly what I want to study. It's like the first year it was like functional screening, like doing movement analysis, biomechanics, and you know. Fitness conditioning, like how to do fitness testing, like all of that. I just read it all. And I was like, oh my God,
yeah.
yes, like this is absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, this is what I find so interesting. So I
Yeah.
want to eat it all up.
It's interesting
Um,
because I've worked with, a few personal trainers, and I must say that like working out with you was a lot different in terms of, you know, different exercises. Like some personal trainer,
Yeah,
they make you do the same shit over and over again, and you're just so tired of it, right? But working with you,
yeah,
so and I learned a lot as well. You know, like I'm going to the gym a lot more now, and I know that. I mean, I know the basics, of course, but you know, it's kind of enough for me to train by myself, which is good. And
yeah,
it's because the way you explain it as well, you have all the science behind it and shit like that. So it's very interesting. Yeah, like working out with
yeah.
you was just amazing. But so thanks to GSP, right? Basically.
Thanks to GSP, yeah, and like I appreciate as well, and like thank you for obviously that's a very nice testimonial, and I appreciate it because at least for sure I was getting something right, at least a broken clock strikes twice a day and all that. But I think yeah, for me it's probably maybe a bit of a point of difference that maybe a lot of coaches that and look at I wasn't like that the whole time I was coaching either. I feel a lot of trainers will get into coaching people because they themselves had results in a certain method or a certain means of training, and then they're really passionate. You get a lot of like people that they're really good intentioned, like I do like to try and see the positives. So this isn't trying to rag that, try and rag on everybody. But I think a lot of people maybe they like have done like bodybuilding training is a good example, like, and they like freaking, that because actually if you look at the research, like if you want to grow your muscles, the best stimulus for that it is going to be like a consistent exercise selection, and it's going to be actually if you can just like keep hammering, like your body doesn't really embed the adaptation until like you have to kind of like force it to like think like, oh shit, he's just going to keep doing this until like I reinforce these proteins and fucking make
Yeah.
uh, so basically it has to be like a consistent message to get the adaptation. And that's incredible and great knowledge whenever you're a bodybuilder. But like most of my clients the people that I work with, most of them are not bodybuilders. Most of them, like yourself, they want you had a wedding, you like a date, you wanted to like shape up, you wanted to like feel good in your body, you wanted to like move more, and like if you can like also maybe enjoy the sessions, that's going to fucking keep
Yeah,
you at it
exactly. Yeah.
way better. Because like like and I even distinctly remember you telling me like you had like your trainer like in a previous experience had like just like this same particular exercise on the gym ball, I think it
Yeah.
was. He said like, oh, he like just we done this like every single week or every single day. I remember like, and it's like I will listen to somebody whenever they first contact me in our first interaction, and like that was something even like that 5 years ago. We had our first talk. I still remember like that. Oh yeah, Ben like said about that. But and like, is it because I have amazing memory? No, I wrote it down like after our consultation, and
That's
like
amazing. Yeah.
that was like the key thing, that message that I took home from our discussion, that like, okay, and then like, it's not fucking rocket science. It's just like listen to what the person is telling you,
Yeah.
and then we build the plan from there. But I feel like a lot of, and I've had a lot of clients say that their experience with working with somebody is, they maybe like have their initial consult, and then they're given maybe, a cookie cutter kind of like, okay, well, here's my method, and it's like, well, if you're not actually taking any kind of like ownership is given, if that's taken completely away from the client, then their intrinsic motivation's not going to be there. Like I want to make a plan that you are going to get fired up for, and that's what's going to over the longer term lead to long-term success. And ultimately, you know I don't want you to have to for a lifetime be coming to me and like asking me, how do you get yourself fit? I want over time for you to be educated and empowered to like, look at, here's
Yeah.
what you might do. Here's what it might look like. Here's like a structure. You can deviate. You can like make whatever variation or variety of things. And ultimately, like I just have this philosophy of like client enjoyment is going to be
That's
like
awesome, man.
the
Yeah.
thing that's
That's
going to,
that's exactly how I
or
felt,
like,
you know? Yeah.
yeah,
It was so interesting, but yeah, I think and I remember also in England, like, I got a personal trainer and he was on his phone like most of the time. And I
yeah,
thought to
yeah,
myself, like, mate, I'm paying you fucking like, I think at the time it was like 40 quid an hour, but
yeah,
10, 15 years ago, that was a lot of money, and it's
yeah,
like,
big time, big time.
it's crazy. So it's so interesting that, it's like, yeah, for me, you're one of, the greatest personal trainers I've worked with.
Can
I
I
mean,
get that soundbite? Can I?
yeah,
You gotta get a good full Donald Trump on me, like he's the
yeah,
greatest, he's the greatest ever.
exactly. Yeah. No, but it's true, man. Like, I mean it
We
because,
don't build walls, we build biceps. We build the biceps. He's the
yeah,
greatest bicep curl.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but honestly, and I'm just being honest. But
Yeah, yeah.
what's your, like? Because I read a lot of things about like building muscles and shit like that. But I read a lot of people. They say that basically, in order to build muscles, you need to lift heavy. What are your thoughts on that? Like, let's
So
say I want.
that's an interesting one, and it's like like it's sorry, I'm just laughing because like the typical culture is like wrong, let me tell you
Yeah,
exactly right, completely polarized. So whenever it comes to like heavy lifting, anytime that you're doing like strength training and muscle building, there's kind of like a spectrum here of like, let's say, powerlifting or strongman competitors. Like they lift heavy as like they
yeah,
are lifting like the heaviest weights that you can fathom humans lifting. And you might then also like think you could like do more moderate weights but lift them like for higher reps. And a good example of that might be like bodybuilders on the other end of the spectrum. Like they might, and actually in the research to grow muscle tissue, what you want is mechanical tension on the muscle. There's some metabolic stress as well. And
yeah,
there is, basically you want to have like a level of intensity where that like the internal tension on the muscle is sufficient and there's sufficient fatigue
mm,
on the muscle that you're generating basically this response of like there's like cells in the muscles swell and that turns on like some kind of like genetic pathways. They're like basically it's called like the mTOR pathway. And look, this is lots of sciencey stuff, but there's an
yeah,
amazing lecture here on Kyo. I'll give him a shout out as well. He put up like this massive biochemical like thing that happens whenever you're within this zone of loading, and basically just summarize like it does a lot of good shit in the muscle.
hmm,
That's
yeah,
a quote from Kieran Kyo, so Professor Kieran Kyo does good shit in the muscle. Basically you need to like get this level of like mechanical tension and loading. And whenever they've looked at like the rep ranges that you might use within the research, like now, say like actually if you get that same perception of like difficulty and like proximity to failure, so basically we can make intensity is actually a scientifically quantifiable thing. It's not just like, yeah, slapping your chest and
mm,
spit, like, crushing cans on your head. Like, okay, that's maybe intense, but we actually have like intensity is a like measurable thing, and
mm,
how we measure it in terms of muscle building is a thing called like your reps in reserve. You might have heard of this, but it's basically like they also have RPE, which is like your rating of perceived exertion.
mm,
So basically reps in reserve or RPE, they're kind of like the same thing but said differently. And reps in reserve I like is an easier one because you kind of literally how many reps do you have left in the tank, let's say.
yeah,
What's like most effective for like muscle building and muscle gain is if you can like be close to failure, close to
yeah, muscle failure
proximity
right
to the
now.
point of, and like not failure, like you broke your back and your tendon,
Yeah,
right? Like the muscle like can't no longer do the
mm,
action. So like easy example I can probably show on the video here, like if I'm doing a bicep curl and like that's like once I'm no longer able to get one rep
Go
clean
for
with my
yeah.
bicep, you'll probably see all the gym bros like start to hoist their hips into it, and they to pull their hamstring while they're trying to exercise their bicep. So like basically we would call that like technical failure, or like that's the point with which like the muscle can no longer do anymore. Now, once you're like within like 3 reps left in the tank, so even like 3 reps before that point, we're still getting a really good muscle building stimulus. All of that like mTOR, that Kyo, good shit in the muscle, that's all going to happen like within that kind of
Yeah.
range, if you get me. And that's all. Um, you know, so whenever you're doing your strength training, you can actually like if you're pushing to like close to that level of technical failure proximity, you can actually do 30 reps. You can do 25 rep sets. You can do 7. It's probably nicer, and a lot of people will usually just program like between 8 and 12 reps or 8 and 15, because it's just like a reasonable amount of time. Like you don't have to like spend 2 minutes doing one working set to get
Yeah.
those last couple of reps where you're really you're actually going to have like effective reps, we might
Mm.
call them, where you're actually muscle building. If we kind of pull that back and you say like your original question was, do I need to lift heavy?
Yeah.
That was a good question, because our strongmen, our powerlifters, if you think of like Eddie Hall or something, like
Mm.
absolute beast, like, but like chunky as well, like thick, but just like broad.
Yeah.
Like, does he have like the most sculpted physique? Like, no, because he's actually like, whenever you're going to like that level of like maximal strength, it's a lot less about like the muscle tissue is also, the size of the muscle tissue is important, but what's even more important for like max strength expression is actually like your CNS, your nervous system is like the main thing that adapts to lifting really, really heavy loads. And essentially, like you even have like these kind of like nervous cells in your muscles. They're called Golgi tendon organs, and they're basically there to like stop you from lifting so heavy that you like are going to tear your muscle off the tendon. So they're there like basically as like this fail safe to stop you from and you also have in the reverse for like stretching as well, muscle spindles, which kind of do the same, but they stop basically if you've ever like overstretched and quickly get that reflex,
Yeah.
that's your muscle spindles kicking into action.
Okay.
And basically what you kind of do whenever you do like really, really heavy strength, is your number one, you're making like the nervous system like shoot that message, like be able to like recruit more nervous fibers. And then, it basically makes your muscles able to like produce higher degrees of force. Now, does that, although you might be very close to failure on that, usually the lifts that people do that with is like, it's like a deadlift or it's like a squat, is like a compound multi joint. That doesn't lend itself too well. If you do like these guys might be resting 7 minutes between sets if they're going really, really
Yeah.
maximal. So like you just don't get that same amount of, let's say, effective reps. Still, it will drive muscle gain, but it's a different type of training that will make you like the strongest in
Yeah.
terms of maximal strength versus building muscle. Now,
Okay. Yeah.
that's a spectrum as well where, the to if your goal is like, let's say I want to like get bigger biceps or something, whatever it is. I'm using biceps a lot today. It's summer. We got to fill these,
Yeah.
but basically you don't want to go so light that you have to like do 60 reps. It's
Mm.
like, oh God, like actually, okay, I got to like failure, but like, is that generating
Yeah.
mechanical tension enough? Like, no. So maybe we go somewhat like in the grand scheme of things, you do like 8 reps on like your 8 rep max. Like
Hmm.
you're going to fail, you're absolutely dying by the end of it. But in terms of like, say, what the maximum capacity of your muscle, like you, and nobody does a 1 rep max on their bicep. You actually just like hate your bicep tendons, you know?
Yeah.
But like, if you could imagine, like, whenever we come to like what could you actually lift for 1 rep versus what
Mm.
you could lift for 8 reps is no comparison. Like it's like a
Yeah.
moderate weight. It's a moderate weight actually that you use to grow muscle. And even a lot of like bodybuilding kind of guys. I talk a lot about bodybuilding, but I'm not. Look, I'm really not kind of that guy. That's like if if you want to go stand on the stage in lycra underwear and spray it all, I'm not your guy. A lot of those guys, yeah, big love for those guys. But yeah, I'm not the coach for you if like you want to do that. That's not, that's not
Yeah.
my typical client or my,
Mm.
it's not the client that I will typically go for. But um, basically, so you're with bodybuilding or like trying to actually just grow muscle tissue, you're like trying to make the lighter weights feel heavy. And you do
Mm.
that by like lifting the more moderate weights by like for 8 to 15 reps. You could go up to 25 reps, but at some point it becomes a thing where you're like, I'm just actually a little bit, I'm getting bored actually of doing bicep
Yeah.
curls here, said no one ever. That's impossible.
Got love those wasted
But I
curls.
hope that
Yeah.
kind of answers. And then, like, even, the whatever
Yeah.
comes to sports training as well, that kind of like maximum strength level is probably a lot more of what we're trying to get into.
Yeah.
There's some benefits to having like some lean muscle mass on your
Not so
frame,
much.
but
Yeah, for sure.
whenever it comes to like, athletics, those kind of, population sports
Mm.
people, you know, they generally don't want to have like there's like an optimal zone or like a kind of upside down U-shaped curve, bell curve they call it, yeah, of like where like okay, some muscle like no muscle is probably not good, probably going to you know make you more susceptible to injury. Like then like okay, you got the muscle, you got the injury reduction benefits of that, but then there's
Mm.
like going to be like a point where like okay, just you're like super fucking muscular now, and actually you're dedicating so much time to get you know that kind of muscularity that's is maybe taken away from your sports skill practice, your
Yeah.
which is like the king of all performance. You can't just have like Bob Sapp's a good martial arts example. Like I mean, let's just say he was on some Russian supplements too, but
Yeah, for
you know
sure.
that dude was fucking pissing radioactive juice, like, but
Yeah.
like yeah, he
Yeah.
broke the test, no, it doesn't
Yeah,
work.
it's
But you can definitely be, you know, just the physical components maxed out, but like he got his ass kicked on many occasions,
yeah.
so that's a good representation, or like you'll probably and everybody will know in their own sport, somebody who's like, oh my God, they're so genetically gifted as an athlete, but they're just not skillful, or the messy kind of where they say like he's a very short guy,
Yeah.
but like just that skill, like if you can build that skill, then that trumps like a lot. And it's not to say that the physical side of things doesn't matter. Like for sure, he's doing stuff physically that's going to condition him and
Mm.
strengthen him for his sport. But if you're like putting the attributes side by side, like for sure, there's going to be guys that are way more fit, strong. Especially as the athlete ages. But it's like that skill determinant is like
Yeah.
such a like you could be orders of magnitude better than somebody at that at the top end of the game, like in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Whenever I was doing my master's dissertation, I basically was kind of comparing the strength and well the just the power kind of qualities of basically kickboxers and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu athletes. And whenever I like was looking into the research around jiu-jitsu athletes actually, the difference, and like some studies now, we probably need more studies to replicate it, but like the ones that were done in Brazil, so surely probably like quite a good level of, you know, athlete or whatever. Like the athletes that have white belt versus black belt, actually their like fitness level, strength, like whenever they done like fitness testing, it actually wasn't that much different, you know. So you're kind of like, oh, it's not like really this that makes somebody
Hmm.
like the elite level in the sport. Like actually, yeah, like a black belt in jiu-jitsu is a black belt probably because they are just so fucking proficient.
Yeah.
And if you've ever rolled with somebody or, you know, sparred with somebody who's like on that high a level, you just appreciate like, you know, oh, this guy is like, you know, I'm basically, you know, in my car, like in fucking top gear, hammering the fucking pedal down, you
Yeah.
know, as hard as I can. And he's just cruising beside me, you know, and he sees like I'm gonna come, you know, a
Yeah.
little bit
So
closer. He just turns the temperature up a little bit, and then, you know, it's like they're nearly so far ahead
are
with
they
the
really like?
technique.
So what's the difference between like?
Oh,
Because
it's
you're a purple
incredible.
belt, right?
I'm a purple belt,
So
but
if
like,
you were
you
to
know, I
go
would
with,
roll like my coach in Ireland, Barney. He weighs, you know, like 66, you know, kilos soaking wet, maybe. You know, I don't know now. I haven't rolled with him unfortunately in the past few years, but whenever I was living in Ireland full time, you know, he was probably 60, you know, 62. Like he's like
wow,
super light guy, super short, like, you know, but oh my God,
then you'd get
that
mauled, right?
guy, he would get a grip. He would take your grips and just the, you know, it's the series of like leverages and hooks
Yeah.
and, you know, deceptions that he will make, even in like a stand-up match where like, you know, at the time I'm probably like 15 kilos heavier than him, like 10 years younger, you know, with, you know, the youthful exuberance that comes with it and the risk,
Yeah.
you know, you definitely like some of the stuff that I probably attempted back then, you know. Now that I'm closer to 30, I'm like, am I going to attempt that fucking shit? You know, like, so like, but yeah, just incredible. I've seen him do the same, you know, just absolutely, you know, manhandle and, you
Wow,
know,
that's
like guys that
incredible.
are like 90 kilos and also like brown belts or like, you know,
Yeah,
like, and like they're also super fucking skilled, but like it's just, you know, hat tip to Barney Brian Coyle, like one of the OGs of Donegal Jiu-Jitsu, and, you know, absolutely, yeah, he's a fucking inspiration. You know, he's got medals, Europeans, and
that's
you know,
incredible.
he's
Yeah.
done he's done so much. And, you know, I certainly owe him, Gabriel, like a lot of like the guys, you know, that I can't name all the names, but like there's so many of the Donegal jiu-jitsu community that, you know, I
Yeah.
owe like my whole career, my whole like everything too, because, you know, it's like, oh, they were like such role models and like let you see like, oh, we're like in this top corner of rural Ireland where like nobody comes,
Yeah.
nobody goes there. People go on their holidays, you know, they have like caravans to see like the golf courses or something, but like, you know,
Yeah.
nobody who's, you know, we're not like an industry hub. We're not like,
But yeah,
yeah,
that's
the thing, but
crazy,
like
man. Because like, it's, you know, because it takes years as well. It takes fucking years to get to black belt in jujitsu. Like
that's
it
the thing,
takes,
like, you know, as well. And that's one of the things that really, I don't know, it's my like philosophy on training, coaching, and everything, you know, is like actually whenever you do fucking hard things, like have goals of like things that like, you know, because whenever they're the bigger kind of things, like, you know, like black belts in jujitsu, they don't just hand those out, you know, or
yeah, no,
this year I've done a marathon, or, you know, I've done this fucking swim this year. Like, you know, it's like, oh, the medal for that. Like they don't just hand that out. You know, you like fucking you go, you fucking do the suffering, you do the hard thing. But like, if you have like very low hanging fruit that's like easy go, and look at you, you start off with maybe like the breaking down of the small things, the mini goals, and they're
yeah,
important. But like, if you have like something that's fucking big and kind of scares you a little bit, in my experience, that's where like the biggest like self confidence and like personal growth comes from. Whenever
yeah,
you like prove it to yourself, whenever you like remember back, like fuck, you know, like I said, like it probably was the same for me whenever I first started going to jujitsu, because like I'm quite conflict avoidant, very shy, quite like timid or whatever. And then like as you just prove it to yourself, like I'm going to go in there, and anybody who goes into jujitsu, you're going to get your ass kicked, for the
Yeah.
first like fucking 6 months to a year. Save for people maybe that, in America, I know they have such a great culture of wrestling and wrestlers. So like, but still, like they would have had that whenever they went into the practice room
Yeah,
of
for sure.
wrestling.
I heard that. I can't remember. There's a wrestler. I think he did the Olympics a few years ago. I can't remember his name, but he's now a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And he basically said that even though he was a great wrestler, his first practice in jiu-jitsu, like the first 6 months to a year, he was getting mauled like crazy,
Well,
you
that's
know?
it. I mean, if you put that wrestler in pajamas like we all
Yeah.
wear, he's going to struggle.
Yeah.
As I went over to the B team, thankfully I went this year. My buddy Noel, whenever we went to that wedding, but we went to, Craig Jones?
Yeah.
Such a funny guy. But we got
Yeah,
to go to
yeah.
his gym, the B team,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, yeah. So I trained in the B team.
Wow.
Unfortunately, none of the real big hitters were there, but
Mm.
the coaches that were in now were super cool, really friendly. We went on the morning of the wedding, so we also like mutually high fived after we neither of us got injured. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, like literally it is pajama wrestling, and I'm a lot more comfortable with those set of pajamas on because whenever
Yeah,
you get
yeah,
the
yeah.
grip and slow things down, it's a different game completely.
I
Um,
I would say, even though, I'm a big wrestling fan, that
yeah,
I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is definitely more complete. I'm not going to deny it, because I think,
they're
obviously you
very
have
different,
submissions.
just
They're different, but I think, with wrestling, it's more like point based. You score two
yeah.
for
Well,
whatever point.
depends on the rule set that you go to in
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu. A lot of it, is we have points as well, and I know they've done like
but
some rule sets like EBI and
yeah,
stuff where they have a definitive winner, but then like in any sport, we need to have a rule set so that we
of
can
course,
find
yeah,
winning.
absolutely,
You're always going to get the hyper conservative
yeah.
people who are going to play the inches and play it super technically or tactically.
Right,
It's
that must
never
be.
been
Yeah.
like I would say, my style, if I can call
Mm,
it a style. you know, my
yeah,
approach to jujitsu has always been more like I will try and go for the risky scramble to try and submit if I
yeah,
can. And that's been like to my detriment in a lot of competitions as well. Where it's like, oh, yeah, like, because you get people that just they're there for, playing this hyper conservative, pinning you
yeah.
down game. Um, it's always felt more. That is why I think I love jujitsu as like it's an art as
Mm,
well. Like it is literally like the art part of like martial arts because it is you can some scrambling exchanges that you engage in, you can really like put your personality, I feel, or express yourself in how your style is and how it translates. Are you more offensive? Are you more you waiting for the reaction? Or
yeah.
what's your general, you know, like even just how do you respond to adversity? I think martial arts and jujitsu, it teaches you a lot about yourself and a lot about trying to think under pressure. How
Mm,
do you deal with whenever there's literally chaos and someone's trying to choke you unconscious and stuff? It's like a vehicle for developing that kind of confidence in yourself. So I think it's like that beautiful thing, but then also at the same time, and contradictorily so, it is pajama wrestling. So we can't escape that. Don't take yourself too seriously. You know, like I mean, I hate it whenever I see someone doing jujitsu, match, and they're just like, oh yeah, I had a fight. Like that is a
yeah,
pajama wrestling contest.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like if you're
yeah.
not punching, for me, if we're not doing headshots, if you're not like I think like MMA fighters, they're fighters. You go in, you fight an MMA fight. Like,
Yeah,
and I love jujitsu. I think jujitsu is super badass, and it is fucking
for
scary.
sure.
It's
Yeah,
shit.
it looks
Whenever
really cool.
you start doing it, and like fucking, some monkey man's climbing around you and doing
Yeah,
laps, and or a monkey lady, fucking as well, because that's quite scary as well. Whenever they're like,
yeah,
like a
for
40
sure,
kilo female choking you out. What's scarier than that?
mate.
You know, like,
You would never
there
see
are
me
so
again.
many
This is the
badass
thing that, dude. This is the thing
jiu-jitsu
that
girls
scares
that
me. If I ever go to jiu-jitsu training and I get choked out by a 40-kilo lady, I'm quitting straight
And
up.
that's why look at I've been fucking tapped out by ladies. You have to fucking just take you tap often and you tap, but
Yeah,
that's the thing I think so good
that's
about
the beauty
jujitsu
of
is
it.
you
Yeah,
have to, you know what, like if you're gonna fucking let like what's worse, you getting your arm broken by a 40-kilo lady because you didn't tap, or being choked unconscious, and now it's a fucking thing. Anyway, I'm like, respect to the lady, like, this is, I think as well, like, women in jujitsu, because they're, thankfully it's kind of changing now. There's a lot more ladies that train, and especially for self-defense as well. Like, some of the positions are, like fucking whenever you come into like sexual assault and stuff,
yeah.
if you know how to like choke somebody unconscious from,
That's it. Yeah,
like where like a lot of sexual offenders will grab people, is like, oh, that's like into closed guard, you know. So if a woman can defend herself, and actually choke some fucking rapist, that's
absolutely,
like fucking amazing. So I think
100%. Yeah,
it's so good that women do train, and actually I think
yeah,
it's so good that women train against men who are
for
strong
sure.
as
Because
men,
this
and
is
who are,
yeah, this is
because
how
this
you
is like
yeah,
simulation. This is simulation of like
yeah,
what it is like.
absolutely. That's
So
true.
yeah, but really passionate about, definitely like women from a self-defense point of view. But then also, like, I think it's fucking healthy for a man to realize that, if you're, talk about my coach who I outlined earlier, Barney, his sister Mairead is also a really, really talented grappler. And
Wow.
fucking, you can, I can guarantee you, if Mairead is teaching something, I haven't seen her in years, but you'll be fucking damn sure I'll be with my notepad and biro, because like whenever a woman in jujitsu is teaching something, you can be sure that it's not because they have this strength advantage that so actually, whenever they show these little details, you can be sure that detail will work
For
on
sure.
somebody
Yeah,
who's like
yeah,
30 kilos heavier and has that man strength, like, you can be sure. And that, like, that has like such like an essence to it of like, this is like the pure skill and technique. Whenever like something can work on somebody who's much, much superior to you physically. So, look
yeah.
at
I
like
guess it really goes to show that it's effective, right?
exactly, exactly. And now, of course, I also say this coming from, as studying strength and conditioning, and like trying to prepare people for, being the best physical expression of
Mm,
power, conditioning, endurance, all that great stuff. But, really, like, in competition, whenever the two skill levels are even, that can be your edge. But I
yeah,
think, in general, if you live that, even the Gracies, I'll listen to that audio book of, was it, Hickson's book, and I forget the name of it, it's escaping me now. The documentary's choked, but I forget what his book is called. But look it up, Hickson Gracie's book, and yeah, like, the jujitsu kind of ethos was like, it was a lifestyle as well. Like, it wasn't just like on the mats. They encouraged to like look after your body, to like eat healthy.
yeah,
He done like a lot of, kind of, oh, what do they call it? Something natural. Um, but it was basically like all of these kind of like movement flow kind of
mm,
stuff. Gymnastic natural, I think it was called. But yeah, like all of these kind of, yeah, it's basically like calisthenic kind of animal movement kind of type of stuff. But
yeah,
it's like, there's like a whole like ethos behind it, where like, if you're a good ambassador of jiu-jitsu values, you're not just, like on the mat training jiu-jitsu, you're, trying to better yourself across, all of the other aspects of your life
Mm,
too, and that's something I think is powerful. And like any sport can do that, really. It's
yeah,
not like a jiu-jitsu thing. For sure, like you can use sports as a positive vehicle for, the other aspects of your life, no matter what. Or you can just use
yeah,
gym, you can use training, or you can use freaking anything really. But I think that's always something that I really seek to try and instill as well in any of my
yeah.
clients.
It's funny because grappling has become so popular over the past,
Yeah,
10, 15 years. But I remember as a kid, when I lived in France. So, I did wrestling for close to 10 years as a kid. And my schoolmates, they had no idea what wrestling was, you know?
no,
So they would ask me, like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I do wrestling. They'd be like, what the fuck is that, man? And
I
then,
get
like,
into spandex and
it's
I
judo, but
roll
without
and
the gi,
use
you'd
my
have
hand.
to, yeah, you'd have to basically explain what it is.
I have
And
my hand hold me on the ground.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much hugging each other on the mat,
That's
just
that's
like,
that's that's just
and that's
what I say.
absolutely. But it
As I tell people, I'm like, oh, it's like my sports are jujitsu and rugby. If I
yeah,
can't be
hugging
between your
man,
legs, if I
hugging
can't have my
sexy
head
man on the
between
mat.
my
Yeah.
head isn't between your legs for like 40% of the sport, I'm not in. It's not,
But
you know.
you'd have to explain what it is. And it's so interesting that over the past few years, I
Have
think
you
that
seen that
the
video of
Khabib,
Theo Vaughn talking about
which one?
jiu-jitsu?
No, I haven't.
He's
No,
like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I thought it was the type of dog. I was like, no way, you got yourself a jiu-jitsu? What is it?
yeah, yeah, no,
And he's like saying they
I
get
haven't
into
seen
a
it.
lot of predicaments. It looks like they're both searching for something, but neither
Yeah,
of them have it.
I haven't seen it. He's a funny
It's
dude.
very funny. I'll send you. He's a
Yeah,
funny
yeah,
dude.
yeah. He's a
Yeah,
funny dude for sure. But yeah, no, I find it interesting. I think the Khabib sort of like movement also really helped.
Mm,
Having Khabib like,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
even at
Khabib was the ultimate. He was like that is my least favorite style to come up
yeah,
against in a grappling match because it's just like so infuriating. Like you just like it's like quicksand, you know. But that's really look at it. That is like grappling done so
yeah,
well. Is like you make one mistake and I
and
capitalize
that's
on it.
it's game over.
And
Yeah,
then you make another mistake. Like, and then I just wait. And then they're like sitting on it's like, I'm all, oh, fuck, I've conceded now. And then, like, the ball's in my court to make something happen. And the longer the clock goes, that starts to put pressure on you. So
yeah.
then you start to get desperate because you want to win the match. But whenever you
But
get
then
desperate, you're going to make
you
another
get
mistake. And
punished.
then
Yeah,
it just, it's
absolutely.
like,
Yeah, it's
and that's what the elites in any sport does. You watch fucking tennis or something. It's like big rally and like it's
yeah,
like whatever way that they hit the ball, it like was like in anticipation that it puts the pressure on for
yeah.
like six
They
shots
wait for the
down the line.
perfect moment. Yeah,
Boom, and then oh, checkmate, motherfucker.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
It's all
that's
techniques, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, it's just so interesting, like how grappling really became famous over the past, yeah, maybe 10, 15 years. I mean, especially in Europe, of course, in the US, it's probably different because
yeah, yeah,
when you go to high school, you wrestle most of the time. But like in France and England, and even in France or when I lived in England, like BJJ was not really that big as well. It was mostly like judo or the traditional jiu-jitsu, the Japanese one as they call it.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
it's just so interesting. But yeah, I think like BJJ is an amazing martial art, and it's not very knee friendly, though I would say. I guess for my, coming back from an
Yeah,
ACL injury.
yeah. I mean, you just gotta be like the Meow brothers and get both ACLs completely tore, and just yeah, I'll deal with that when I'm 70.
Yeah,
You know, just sort of like just
yeah, that's a
keep
great
going.
idea.
Yeah, you know, that is the Brazilian competitor method.
Yeah,
Click, click, click. Oh, I didn't hear anything. You know, I want that gold.
Yeah. No,
You know,
it's very interesting, man.
oh,
And
I want the gold.
yeah, who cares
Wow.
about an ACL? We don't
Yeah.
need one. It's fine. Man, like you, like working in a gym, you must see some absolute chump, like like the weirdest movements. Or do you ever turn around and be like, "Hey, what
I
is this
mean, I
guy
did
doing?"
train you that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Yeah, look
as
at you see a lot. Yeah, we would call it like a movement variability. We see a
yeah,
very large a range of physical literacy, very, very, like I would have some clients who, they never played sports as kids, they're like in their 60s now, and then like, like just the movement,
mm,
um, coordination even, like, for somebody that's like maybe not developed that whenever they were like as a child or through like childhood's like so important to like move, and geez, nowadays people throwing iPads and stuff at their kids, you do worry about what's fucking I mean, at least maybe they can catch the iPad and that's some kind of movement, but this swiping motion is going to be so well developed, but a typical lad on Tinder, but like somebody that is like some of the cases that I've seen of like they never developed that kind of movement or that kind of coordination, it's like that gets really rough as you age as well, because
yeah,
it's it leaves you vulnerable to maybe falling if your
yeah,
coordination's off, if you're and like falling and reducing, like basically osteoporosis, like the kind of bone density lessening, like that kind of is going to be reduced, and even like sarcopenia and reduction in muscle mass is something that generally is going to happen, every decade after you're 40, or even after 30.
yeah,
When they look at research, but that's generally not actually what people kind of assumed is like, oh, we're just hormonally not the same, we're metabolically, we kind of break down, and like to a degree, yeah, like you get injury histories, you get some miles on the clock, you're going to have to maybe pay more attention to warming up. But I've seen people in their 70s who can train, they can lift weights, they can still like,
really,
push a good intensity. And if you can do that and that you can maintain your muscle mass and your bone density later in life, like
yeah.
that
Then
is
you're,
going to be such an asset to like not only your quality of life. One of the main
hmm
reasons that people, end up, not leading a quality of life whenever they age is because actually they're not strong enough to like go and get up out of the house independently. They need people to like push around. So then what happens? They start socially withdrawing because they feel like they're a burden on people. They
yeah,
feel like, oh, I don't want you to have to fucking do this, or so that's like something that if you don't cater for maintaining your muscular strength,
yeah. It's
then
like
that's gonna
it's
like
like a car, right? Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and it's like, well, like it's just like could be a very depressed car, if the
yeah,
car's not getting taken out to the track at all, It'd be a very sad car, I mean, cars don't cry, but
no, but yeah, it's
like and like even just the day that we're able to fucking not be able to go to the toilet, unassisted is it's pending for all of us. But if you have more muscular strength, you're kicking that can down the road, so to speak. Excuse the pun. You know, you can keep kicking that can, and you could even like keep kicking the can because you'll have single leg strength that will enable you to kick your can down the
yeah,
road if you want. But look at like that side of things. I think is like super important, and people
yeah, for
always think,
sure.
oh, for so I'm very encouraged as well that
Yeah,
through my own work, like with some of the cases that I've mentioned with like people who are aging, but we can actually still, even for this individual who's never really been in a gym, never done sports, like in the years that I have worked with this individual, they've improved so much, in terms of strength, in terms of what their capacities are. And like, you have to look at like, well, what if they didn't? They could already potentially have, done themselves in with a fall.
Yeah,
If they didn't have, the muscular strength. And look, it's a what if, but there is a very solid um pathway to death as people enter that kind of like,
it is.
later in life,
Yeah, it's
a
true.
later age and elder. And like, basically, if you can keep yourself out of intensive care wards, amazing. Because like,
Yeah,
what happens? People like fall if they haven't got the muscular strength and they have some osteoporosis going on. They break their leg. But a leg break after 70, not a fun recovery.
no, for
That's
sure.
number one. Like, does your body have the same capacity to recover from something like that? Probably not. So that's why it's very
Yeah,
important. We can prevent it with a couple of strength trainings a week. Doesn't need to be a lot.
no,
Actually, you can have robust improvements with like 2 sessions a week.
for
Actually,
sure.
the guidelines are like 2 to 3, 2 to 4 strength sessions a week. You know, if you can work your muscles to like that kind of like 3 reps in reserve on like a movement that's safe for you, that's going to have amazing. If you do that, like you're in the top 1% of
Yeah,
humans, you know. Um, and then like if you can do moderate cardiovascular kind of exercise, which could be like a power walk or just literally
yeah.
getting steps in, like then you are better than 90% of
Other people, yeah,
other people, because like most people in our saturated Western nations are not doing that, and then it's
nope,
like they're jumping on maybe like bad diets or this and that, and it's like they're looking for shortcuts, but like
yeah.
actually
But there's no
to
shortcut. Yeah,
confer the benefit. But just to go back to our 70-year-old buddy who's just fallen broken leg, you end up in the hospital with a broken leg at 70. You end
and you
up
have to go
catching
through
like
the
a
surgery as well. And it's a bit risky when you're 70 years old
well,
going through
exactly.
surgery. So
You get an
it's yeah,
infection. You get an infection like one of these super bugs, and that I'm dead.
yeah.
What? I fell. Like they fell. And it wasn't like a life threat. Like could have been freaking a
No,
bad
yeah,
ankle
yeah,
sprays, something like that. But then you went to the hospital where all the sick people are and where all the bugs are, and now your immune system's already compromised because you haven't been doing steps and walking and doing that kind of lifestyle thing. So maybe you have some complications in terms of that. But this is like a very like
serious.
set in
Yeah, it's
stone
yeah,
series
for
of
sure.
like how death happens in older adults. It's very preventable if you find look at
Maintain.
there's groups that have like older adults doing keep fit or this or what like there are options. I seen one of my old buddies. He's actually in Vienna doing the same as me. He's coaching people. He's online coach as well. Aiden Hunter.
Hmm.
I'll give him a shout out. But I seen he had like a post on the story there the other week of older adults doing like a group kind of a strength training thing, and like that's fucking incredible. Like that is
Yeah,
amazing. It's such a good news story to see because so many people will have this mental barrier of I'm too old, I won't fit. I'm
yeah,
going to be out of place there, and like actually, whenever you look at like life changing impact, like the not dying effect, which is quite a life changing impact, just not dying. That'll change your life. If you don't die straight away,
that's
or if
the
you can
secret.
delay that dying thing, then
Yeah,
like you're doing something right as far as living and life is concerned. So,
yeah,
like to see like that is genuine life changing impact. And look at 20-year-olds can have life changing impact too. You can develop your muscular strength, confidence, all of those kind of
mm,
things at a young age. But in terms of like who really needs the gym, who should like on a mandate be in the gym, it should all be like 60 plus,
yeah,
You're,
for real.
or like, and like, but like, no, I shouldn't even say it should be all because it should be for everyone and it should be a welcoming place, which is why I'm not particularly the biggest fan of the spandex panty crowd that like to beat their chests and make it a little bit intimidating for some people. But look at, you can
Yeah,
find gyms with people that aren't,
yeah,
just
that's it. Yeah, it's strange. Like, you know, So I go to this gym now. It's a little bit more expensive. It's like private, but
Yeah,
I feel, myself, because there aren't many people. But when you go to like those big gyms, you always have
yeah,
like
yeah.
people,
Oh, that
like
gym, we have to
kind
give
of
Gym
showing
City,
off.
we have to give Gym City in Budapest a
Yeah,
shout
yeah.
out.
Oh mate, it's
They had like
crazy.
some
It's
of these
like,
posters with a fucking,
yeah, and
oh yeah,
yeah,
red
you look at
panty
those
night.
posters and you're like, dude, like,
Yeah,
it makes you so little, like, so small. It's
yeah,
strange.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
didn't really like that feeling, but I'm so
Yeah, I
happy with
didn't
this
like
new
it. I
gym, and I
didn't like
think
the type of like I would have. This is some very funny like stories, just like working on like the you're just at the gym, but I would have like some like lady come up to me, and be like, oh, she would just point at one of these like bikini models that was like another
I
trainer in
think
the
you told
gym, and
me,
like
yeah.
she literally like just pointed. She has this photo, and it's like, okay, look, it's photoshopped, incredible Adonis photo, whatever. But she like pointed up at it like it was the fucking menu at Burger King. Like, I want that. I was
Yeah.
like,
What did you
let's,
say?
let's see. I was like, well, look at you. This lady is, she's probably living it.
Yeah,
Um, how much do you want that?
yeah.
Because,
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah,
No, it
not to,
is,
not to
yeah.
knock any individuals, but I'm like, a lot of sad. Like whenever you see like some of the bodybuilding community and some of the patterns, like some of the people even they look in incredible shape, but like fucking eating disorders, they've fucking they
Really?
really take it so much, so many of them on you know Russian
Yeah,
supplements, maybe with Bob Sapp as well,
yeah.
and so many of them taking hormones, the women especially, not the least of which the women taking male hormones, taking like fucking I have another client here in Hungary now as well, who told me, like she worked with a previous trainer and he within one, consultation was upselling her on clenbuterol, which is like a
No
fucking,
way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So like, that's what's out there. And I feel really, really like I've kind of gotten into now, which would maybe be an interesting segue more of like body image coaching and trying to like help
Mm,
people
that's true. Yeah,
improve their body image. And this is something I struggle with
and
as
like,
well. Like whenever I first even got into fitness as well,
yeah,
you kind of have this there's
confidence
like
and
this
yeah,
expectation in society in whatever. Like a lot of people will like say, oh geez, like I'm a trainer, let's say, and even on like some like weekend I go out to like a buddy's birthday and I'm like I like order a beer because I'd like to enjoy just a beer at a party, and like there's like this like a thing where like the other people at the party, oh, you're a trainer, you shouldn't have the healthy, you I thought you only have healthy stuff, it's like that's like this like constant like societal expectation of
yeah.
like oh you must never eat anything that's like not hashtag healthy. And I really rebut that because I'm like, you know what? Fuck off. First of
Fuck
all,
off. Yeah,
most fucking people in fitness, I think, take it far too fucking seriously. I'd be
yeah,
rolling my eyes something savage when someone's like, you just gotta want it hard enough. It's all about discipline. I'm like, oh, go fucking fuck off. And like,
yeah.
like actually, like what's most successful for most people. And look at if you want to fucking stand the stage and be fucking absolutely Shreddy Krueger, go for it. I won't hold that against people. And actually, I do think it's admirable if anybody
Yeah.
like gets to like the upper echelon on any pursuit. Yes, like for sure, discipline, this blah 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 blah. But whenever that seeps in on like a societal level, as if like oh, everybody should like do that, or there's this morality built into like, oh,
It's like a
you're like
religion, isn't it? Yeah.
you're like you're not fitness if you're not fucking, are you having fries with your it's like actually, yes, I am, and I like try and model it, like this is, according to like even the best research we have on living a healthy, meaningful life, actually, if you restrict yourself to only chicken and broccoli, that's much less balanced of a diet and you may be putting yourself at a lot of risk of
Absolutely. Yeah.
micronutrient deficiencies if you like actually for sure, like I'm not encouraging people to like just drink beer and eat pizza and do but like for most of my clients, this kind of like bodybuilding culture of clean eating and then cheat day. I fucking hate cheat days. It's like if you're in a fucking relationship that you want to cheat on, like that's not a good relationship. So if your
Yeah.
relationship with food is you have to like fucking starve yourself and then purge because actually caloric restriction is and like just restrict based behaviors. Like I won't say
Mm,
calorie deficit is like inherently like no anyone that loses body fat do a calorie deficit, but in my opinion, you are going to serve way more people or way more people in the general population are going to be served if we can communicate that through focusing on an inclusive approach where you're
mm,
including high protein foods, you're
yeah.
including a colorful plate with a variety of different, you know, like fruits, vegetables, all different colors, and then allowing yourself to eat carbohydrates, allowing yourself to have fast, like allowing
Yeah.
yourself unconditionally to have treats every now and again and like having like, finding your balance and even maybe thinking of it as a treat. Like, no, it's like, look at it's like freaking sometimes it's more convenient to my lifestyle to just freaking eat out on this occasion and grand, you know, or sometimes, like people feel like oh I was going good but then I had like oh my fucking mom's birthday or my wedding or this or that
Mm,
oh my god it's going good. I'm like you're going to actually be stressing over your food and your eating or your diet because of a wedding. Like fucking enjoy your wedding, man. Like I mean,
yeah.
like you're fucking,
Yeah.
you're going on holiday. Amazing. Like fucking don't be.
Have
I'm looking
fun.
like,
Yeah.
if you go look at that, fucking train some combat sports athletes. Okay, you have like a fight coming up. Yeah, you look at that's a sacrifice. You can't eat Ben and Jerry's at your
Yeah.
fucking brother's wedding,
So,
or what,
yeah,
like you can't,
that's
like, no, you need to like weigh
you
up. But like for most people, like they don't have the world heavyweight championship, coming up. They don't have this, like, but or even if they do have a holiday coming up, like
mm,
you're probably valuing what your body composition is way more than what do you think your best friends are like fucking thinking, geez, Ben looks fluffy, geez Christ, oh my God. Or they're waiting to judge what your exact like body composition is. Or like, do you think that you like having a panic attack over lunch because you can't find a fucking low calorie option, like what's going to piss them off more, the fact that you're getting worked up about that and not having like just
that's very true,
like
yeah.
being open to enjoying life and
Yeah.
having your meals whenever enjoy, actually just not feeling guilty about it
Yeah.
whenever that comes. So I think that's look, this is kind of work that I've kind of started to integrate with a lot more of my clients
That's
because it's
cool, yeah,
something
that's
that
good.
I find it's so much more ubiquitous. And I've even, I had a client who she came from like a bodybuilding coach before me,
Mhm.
and the like she like had like a fat loss goal, and I asked like I asked like whoever's like working with me for fat loss. Now I've made it like a practice, like like I'm gonna like ask and dig deeper, like what's your motivation for this fat loss? Why is this change important to you? She's like that was the first time anyone actually asked me that. Like I worked with multiple coaches before, but like everyone's like, oh well, obviously you want to lose fat, obviously you want to fucking here's my, cookie cutter fucking diet for, you losing fat. But like, whenever we examined, we actually had a real conversation around,
Mm,
and like for some people, that motivation is very healthy. It comes from a place of like, I want to feel like good in my body. I don't really feel too good right now.
yeah,
Maybe it's something vain, like I just want to look better naked. I want to fucking, feel sexy or something like that, Fine, completely fine motivation.
yeah,
But overall, like if you can tie it to like a deeper, you know, kind of a core value of yours, because like I'm the type of person who takes care of themselves, or does they, but sometimes, you flag like, okay, like because I, think that other people will judge me if I'm fat, or, or because I think that, it's like, it comes from like this place of like deep insecurity or something.
Mm,
And
it is.
then,
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
actually, now this isn't like something that's necessarily a positive change that you're making, because like I've gotten like I'm not fucking stage lean or anything, but I've like lost body fat in the past to like a significant level, and I've had more body fat. And both ends of that spectrum, the same psychology was, okay, maybe more people on the outside are, complimenting you or something, but it's like, actually, like, if that's what's given you your validation and confidence and like your actual, like, you know will to go forward, then that's really not in your control, because
Yeah,
other people will fucking say, the typical Irish granny, you're getting, geez, you're getting a bit big there, that. And then, geez, whenever you lose a bit of weight, geez, you're fading away,
yeah,
but it's like, that's completely outside of your control, what other people are going
absolutely.
to
Yeah,
say. So like, if
yeah,
you want to like build that robust confidence that's going to, sustain you through multiple domains of your life, then you want to like get your confidence from, like I kind of alluded to earlier, like I set challenges, I set like objective things in the
mm,
world that I'll try and achieve. And whenever you achieve them, then like that reels back into like that nobody can take that away from, me. Like if I run the marathon, I've run it, like I've done that, boom, that's in the log now, and like, nobody, it doesn't matter, other people, okay, people might say that was a fucking bad time or this was that, but like, I'm comparing myself to me, and nobody can take away the fact that I was scared to do that. I was scared to even, like, contemplate that I could
yeah,
do that, to like, then like I did it, versus, if somebody loses weight and they feel really insecure, but now actually they're just like the same amount insecure, but now they're very hungry. So that's
yeah.
probably worse, if anything.
So
You
that's my
know?
question. That was my next question. How because of course I know that you've run the Vienna Marathon.
Yeah.
And to me, I find it so fascinating that, because you never used to run that much before, right? If I'm not
Yeah, I
mistaken, you
would
were
not
not a fan of.
identify. I don't identify as a runner.
So how like
You
how
know?
the fuck did you get into? Because for me, that would be my biggest nightmare. Like I hate running. If you put a football, I could run for whatever, but just like
Yeah.
running by itself, I just can't do it. And I just, like, how did you do it? What was your mindset? How did you manage? Because you did a good. I mean, what was your time at the end?
I
3
done it
hours.
in 3 hours 39. My goal was
That's
to run it
for a
in sub 4 was my goal, and I thought
so
that was kind of on the edge of maybe my capabilities. Like, I'm proud to have, like, I worked my ass off to do it. Um, I really actually, I only kind of got into running like last year, because I basically, I got this operation because I've like,
yeah.
anyone that knows me from my college days, I was probably in a sling more than I was out of a sling. I like dislocated my shoulder like 10 times.
Oh shit.
Yeah, yeah. So that this was like a really recurrent injury, and then I had like an operation in Ireland, but then I rehabbed, had like 8 good years of training, but then it happened again here in Budapest. So I basically got a Latarjet operation in my shoulder.
Mm,
They basically cut off a bit of your shoulder blade, and they drill it in front of the shoulder, and that keeps it nicely in
stable.
there.
Yeah.
Keeps it in the socket, So
Yeah.
it's been there ever since, thank God. I got back to rugby this year too, so very proud of that.
That's
Shout out to
good.
my physio Mo. But yeah,
Yeah.
the marathon, I got into the running basically because like I was basically taking the jiu-jitsu, martial arts, rugby, all of the sports that I love
Mm,
were basically taken from me. And that this was quite a problem. Because also it was quite a learning as well, because I kind of, maybe you fall victim, and we in our master's degree as well, with athletes, we done like a module that was very focused on like, actually, even for the elite level athletes, the day whenever they're, it's a very short life, as a, especially like an Olympic athlete, or you're fucking, you're only ever one severe injury away from like this dream could be over.
Yeah.
So, and for a lot of them, like you go through this identity crisis as well, because a lot of them will define themselves by their participation in the sport, and I definitely, I would say I got quite depressed as well whenever I like
Yeah.
initially was going through the operation, because it's like fucking like, this is like I'm sure it's come across in this conversation earlier that like I'm really passionate about jiu-jitsu martial arts, and you know for sure like I probably was guilty of maybe defining myself a little bit through like being the jiu-jitsu guy, or being the or like even through thankfully I had like other outlets, I had friends, I have these kind of support systems or whatever. um you have your family, you have like those kind of things that you can lean on in those times. But for sure there was like this gaping hole of sport that was there within my life. And
Mm.
I actually can thank my client, Gillis. He's a Scottish guy. He came to me and wanted to prep for his first ever half marathon. So, I like studied sports science, and I knew like, okay, like this is the theory behind, like, I know we're going to do polarized training. We're going to do like intervals here. We do a lot of zone 2 work or whatever with your heart rate. So I had the theoretical knowledge, but it was also then I kind of took it as, you know what, I'll train for the half marathon with you as well, because I
Mm.
kind of want to know what the experience is to like do a sport like this, because I've never done a sport like this. And like I never would consider that I would be like that kind of guy that would also as well like kind of be like, oh, just get bored, or whatever. And that's kind of the stick that people usually beat endurance sports with. And having done the Balaton swim, I can confirm without headphones and without music, yeah, it's a lot worse. Um, but it's that kind of got me into the endurance side of things, and I actually within a summer now, I will say I probably do have some kind of advantages, or my body is, uniquely suited to the impact and the rigors of running, because, I think maybe some people would say like, oh, all sports are for everyone. And like, look at people do gravitate towards sports that they are, somewhat going to have an advantage in, or, like, um, so I think like for me to have gotten to the level that I've gotten to, which like people that do marathons, like it's not a very impressive time, but like for me, which is the most important thing, it was like for me that was like really like a 5 month effort, and even more actually,
Wow.
because I started like the year before, and I kind of like I had some knee adversity too, like I had some like joint stuff from like trying to build up the volume. And like that's the biggest learning, is like sometimes even whenever you're trying to factor in ramping it up slowly, like sometimes you still will like put too much loading on the knees, especially if you get that
Mm.
kind of, I think whenever you come from like martial arts or that kind of sport where you want to like push intense as well, like sometimes maybe that high intensity, the mind might want to go to places where the body, like literally the tendons and ligaments, like they need time in the market,
Yeah.
not just time in the market and going intense. You need like to build your ground and raise it up with exposure. So like a lot of like really elite like distance runners, they're not hitting like their lifetime personal best until later in their running career as well, because like that level of endurance, it just like your tendons, ligaments, everything to be able to sustain the volume of running that you need. You really need that like kind of volume of work to like over a consistent period expose your joints to
Mm.
be able to tolerate that kind of amount. So look, it's, yeah, I think, for me, maybe like I had done rugby, so that was also like a kind of a running based sport in the past, although
Yeah.
not for many years or whatever. Just say for like during the COVID time, I had played a season here, but like, yeah, distance running is completely new. Um,
Man.
but like, yeah, I'm very proud of the marathon and like to have done that. And also, actually, I should talk about, raised, 1,700 euros for a mental health charity very close to my heart in Ireland, Create a House. So
That's
really
amazing.
appreciate everybody
Yeah.
that's donated to that, because
Yeah.
that
Thank you. That's such a great cause as well.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think it's really fascinating that, you went from not really enjoying it, like running, to running a
yeah,
marathon. I think, I was watching it live as well on Instagram, and I was like,
yeah, yeah.
he's been running for fucking 3 hours. Like, how does he do it? It's just,
Yeah, well, I think
to me, it's
definitely,
so fascinating.
doing it for charity will, like that kind of helps as well. Like, I think actually
Yeah,
it kind
but
of comes down into the kind of what I mentioned with like some of my clients when it's the first time that we do a training session together. If you can tie something into a core value, and like even like bigger than that, like if it can be something that's bigger than you, then
hmm
even better. Because once it's bigger than you, then you really, it's not motivation that you're relying on, because motivation comes and goes, and actually motivation, that's why I fucking hate the, oh, you just gotta want it more. I'm like, ah, fuck off. Like,
yeah,
actually, like your motivation is like your mood. It's like the weather,
yeah,
that
yeah,
comes and goes. But actually, if you tie it to like your value, like, okay, like sometimes you might have existential crisis or something, and like, okay, maybe your values change, but they sure as fuck change a lot less. So if you like
mm,
tie it into like, I'm doing this for, the good of like other people, or I want to set an example for, even like fucking, I don't know, somebody else, or like I want to,
yeah,
do good by other people, then that, all of a sudden, whenever you're feeling really shit, but especially look at it, my charity was a mental health charity. So I'm like, okay, I feel physically tired here. I feel hard. Like, there's people here who are bereaved of a loved one. There are people here, who have had, something genuinely traumatizing, or something that's like really, really difficult that they're dealing with. I'm like, my run is like a run. It's fucking, like at
that's
the end of the day,
amazing, man.
I
Really.
might fucking sigh. I might like, oh, look, this might be like very uncomfortable in my joints, but
Yeah,
like, at the end of the day, it's a fucking run, mate. You're going to jog.
yeah,
If I'm doing a marathon in Vienna, like, I mean, Jesus Christ, this is like, it was a fucking sunny day. There's people cheering you on.
yeah.
There's like freaking people there with bananas and water. It's like, oh, if I'm having a hard time, there's support there. And that there's, so I think it was, you know in that context, you're kind of like, well, this isn't hardship. Like, this is just a run. This is a
Mm,
way to,
that's so
try to
amazing,
give
man.
back as well. So, much harder now was the swim that I done. This actually,
Oh
in
yeah, yeah, yeah.
comparison to the marathon.
So what, that included swim, running as well, or
No,
just the
no,
swim?
this was just a swim,
Yeah.
5.2K. So I think the Ironman distance like 3.5K. But like, and now where I kind of talk about with the marathon, like, you have like certain physiological, advantages, or maybe some people are a little bit more, you know, what would you say, like through their genetics or whatever.
Mm,
Like, I think that my body is a little bit more good with running.
mm.
Um, you know, the swim, I have zero natural ability whatsoever with swimming. It was the most awful,
Was it a disaster?
terrible, traumatic experience of my life.
Really? Oh
And
mate,
I don't
I
say that
can imagine.
lightly, because I went in, like, I trained for it as well. I done like, like maybe like twice a week training. It was about all I could manage with business, and just fitting in the trainings in the pool. But the open water, um, yeah, there's quite big waves halfway through, and there was like, just like like, I think I was too polite with, like, I'm quite a pee shy person in
Mm.
general. And like, I didn't want to basically pee in the water while like Barbara from Begheads behind me.
Hey, why not,
I, did,
man?
I didn't want her like swimming there, and then she just gets a mouthful of my
Yeah,
my latest poo. So I was kind of
Dude.
like, I couldn't pee, but then like whenever no one was around, I was like kind of treading water, trying to pee. Uh, but I couldn't, like the sphincter wouldn't relax. It was like, I don't know, I think this might be common for people, but like, and like, it was very deep as well. So like, it couldn't, like, just with the
Yeah,
muscle contractor, I couldn't pee. So I was like, oh, fuck, I'm going to have to,
dude, that must be
maybe I'm just
fucking
going to have to like
horrible.
gut this out without peeing for like fucking, whatever the 5K.
Oh, mate.
Um, oh, that was already like, oh shit. So then like halfway through, the waves started coming pretty heavy. I was like, oh fuck, right. And I got this like
Oh,
kidney pain. I had this like pain in my kidney, and I was
your
like,
kidney?
oh shit, yeah, very specific.
How? Why? That's random, no?
Yeah, yeah. I think it was because I was holding in the pee, and I couldn't,
Yeah. Oh,
you
definitely.
know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it was like something to do with the pee,
The
but like,
kidney entered the chat.
yeah, yeah, kidney entered the chat, and like I was like, oh my fucking god. So I realized like, oh shit, this isn't something I can just like gut through. Like this isn't
No.
like a good pain, like if it were such a thing.
Oh, shit, man,
But
that's
then I was
awful.
like, okay, I need to like get myself to the boat, because there's like boats every like 30 meters or something to like give you like sugar and water. But the waves were like, of course, the boats were on the right hand side, and where the fuck the waves take me, like way over to the left. So I was like, for fuck's sake, right? I have to like swim. And the game like Frogger,
Yeah.
like whenever they like cross
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
fucking bridge, I was like doing Frogger while like other swimmers are just like fucking Bart Simpson, like not looking at all, just punching air in front of them. So like I got kicked in the head like 2 times
Oh
by
my
some
god,
like
dude.
butterfly stroke. Yeah, maybe like a little bit concussed. And I like finally
That sounds
make it onto
awful.
the boat. And I finally make it onto the boat, like a little bit concussed and with my kidney pain. And then because the waves are going, I didn't just have my kidney pain and my like fucking just head kick face. I then got seasick from the the boat rocking. So I like
Yeah.
started with like one problem of the kidney pain, and then I ended up like on the boat with fucking two problems. I was like, oh,
Mm.
now I want to throw up. Now I'm nauseous. I'm
Oh,
shaking.
shit.
So I got like water, and they're just feeding me sugar or whatever. Um, so I was like fucking camped out
Mate,
there for like
that sounds
30
like a
minutes.
nightmare.
It was horrible. It was
How
just
long
a
was it for, the
physical
swim?
therapy. So it took me very unimpressive 4 hours and 50 minutes.
Nah, 4
Yeah,
hours of
yeah,
swimming,
yeah,
dude,
yeah.
that's
Oh, it was hell. It
insane.
was hell. So I like,
Mate,
whenever I was like able to get off the boat, then I finally like just hung on to the edge of the boat, which is still not comfortable because I'm still like a little bit nauseous, and my like legs are flapping about and getting pulled in under the boat. But I could finally like relax enough to like take a 10-minute pee. So I took like a 10-minute
oh,
pee. I
Jesus
was like,
Christ, man.
oh, like, it was like just, I don't know, orgasmic for like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
It was a
it's like
pee. It was a pee though. And then I like fucking just panicking because I'm like, oh shit, hot chicks over there. Please don't get in this boat. Please don't come to this boat. They're
oh
going to be
my
like
god, but
swimming like, oh, the water is really fucking warm here, eh?
yeah. Oh my
So I was
god,
like,
dude, but it
oh
it
god.
wasn't filmed, was it?
I don't think this was filmed. They might make a Broadway movie out of it.
Yeah,
But
the highlight from the swim,
yeah,
you pissing
yeah,
about in the
hopefully not. I mean, geez, I hope they don't have that dye stuff that like you can see from the overhead drones. Just oh, what's going on here?
yeah, you have
Um,
some dude, like, hanging out trying to fucking piss for, like, 10
so then I
minutes.
like finished. I finished the race, but it was like 2.5 kilometers more. Like after that point, it was like I was only halfway there at that point. I was like, oh my god, like I basically, it was so bad. There was like these like hills on the other side, and
Yeah.
you would put your head down and like just
Man, that's
for like
insane.
an hour, and then you would like look up and like, oh my god, they haven't fucking moved an inch. Like what? I like start looking like, am I going backwards? Are these waves
Mate,
like
that's
actually
awful.
making me go
Yeah,
backwards?
of course, yeah, because of
And it
the
didn't help that I like tore my quad 2 weeks
oh,
before at
shit.
rugby, so I couldn't do my like breaststroke. I could
Yeah,
just do like the freestyle for the whole
the
way.
freestyle
And like
one,
there
yeah,
was
dude, that's
fucking
crazy.
many. That's like the fucking Hungarian for granny. They were like overtaking me. There was like fucking children. There was like 10-year-olds
Oh,
overtaking me.
dude,
I
that's
was like,
insane.
Oh yeah, it was
Man, that sounds brutal, dude. Seriously, that's
oh, it
like
was terrible.
I just can't
Yeah.
get my head around it. Fuck, that's
What
crazy. But
what kept me going? You know, Francis Ngannou, the
yeah,
MMA champ, like
mm,
fucking his story of how he got into Europe was
is
like my
insane, man.
motivation because like
Is
he
insane.
tried
Yeah,
to like fucking swim or like sail across like from
yeah,
Morocco to Spain as an illegal migrant, just for people that don't know, like
yeah.
7 times. Not fucking once, not
That's
twice,
crazy.
seven
His
fucking
story is
times.
amazing,
And
man.
every time he gets
Yeah,
caught by the boats, he's the biggest guy there. So they make a fucking example out of him. They beat the shit out of him and then
yeah.
dump him somewhere in
That's
a fucking
insane, dude.
desert in between Morocco and Algeria. And, you know, for the joy
Yeah,
of him having to fucking wake up like concussed and walk a day to fucking find anywhere to like try and build himself up to go again. And he done that fucking 7 times until he
yeah, that's
finally
insane, man. It's
got through.
crazy. His story
You
is
know,
amazing, and I think he deserves it.
absolutely.
He's
And
such
even
a
like,
like,
I literally was like, this was that 5.2K swim was like the most physically unpleasant feeling. And my legs were cramping, my hamstrings were fucked. I had headache, I had fucking nausea, I was fucking, and it's just I felt like I was going nowhere for like fucking 5 hours, and
yeah,
like all the while I just had to think like, fucking this is luxury. Like fucking Francis, if he seen a boat, he was getting a beating and dumped
yeah,
into the desert. I see the boat, they're there to fucking help me. They're there to give me sugar, water. It's like
yeah. They're not there
this is suffering, this is
to
hard,
put
this is
you out. Yeah,
terrible, but like get over yourself, man. Like that there's fucking real fucking problems in the world. And yeah, that's kind of like always, I think no matter how fucking shit that you have it, you just got to be fucking stoic about it and be like, just
mm,
fucking. At least it's not like fucking that. Like there is definitely something that's way worse that somebody's
that's
actually
cool,
going
man.
through.
It's good that you managed to switch your mind. It's really good that at least you can reflect on certain things, but still, like props to you, man. I mean, fucking swimming
Look at
for
it.
4 hours.
It's good, but at the end of the day, like for me, it's like okay, it was a swim. It's I'm delighted, and like for me as well, like I'm prouder to have finished that like fucking swim that was the most unimpressive time ever by
Mm,
a recorded land mammal. And but like that medal, like I say, like there's some things that they don't just get given out. And
yeah,
for me, like I had to struggle way more against adversity in that challenge than the marathon. And like
that's
to
awesome,
get
man.
through something like that
Yeah,
is like gives you way more confidence than
for sure.
like something
Absolutely.
that if something comes easy to you, then like it's fucking that's not particularly,
Yeah,
you're not going to grow from it. But whenever you struggle against something and you push beyond the comfort zone,
yeah, and
that's
then you can
where,
reflect on. Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
yeah,
It's so interesting, man. And obviously, you've trained many people in fitness. My question to you was, how do you train an athlete versus some random guy like me? Like, what are the questions that you ask? Like, because I guess because you've trained some athletes before. You've trained those people.
yeah.
They were
I
doing
had
what?
Camilla
Kickboxing,
and
right?
Jens, the Danish
Yeah,
kickboxing team. They were fantastic to coach, and a real honor that they took me on there
yeah.
journey. I train like a lot of rugby guys at the minute. Shout
Hmm.
out to all the Exiles, the Budapest Exiles. Yeah, I've trained, yeah, within sports like other jiu-jitsu guys, and whenever it comes, I've trained even endurance athletes now since I've had
Yeah.
my Canadian
How do
fellow
you
Rafi.
like?
Like what you have to do is like whenever it's a sport, we do a needs analysis. This is what my undergraduate in Tipperary, we
Mm,
to a degree as well. In my master's degree, we fleshed this out. But whenever you want to make out a training program, you do basically two things. You do a needs analysis for the sport. So you look at like,
yeah.
okay, well, what's the competition calendar looking like? What are the demands of the sport? And, by when do we need to peak? Is it like a season? Is it like a fucking, like a fight? It's just one
Mm.
day that we're peaking. Is it like an Olympic cycle? You look at all of like what's the competition schedule and what are the demands? What are the physical qualities that we need to, you know, do for peak performance? And sometimes if you don't necessarily have that within your athlete, you want to maybe look at like who is the successful athlete and try to, copy or, reverse engineer what they do that's
Mm.
incredible. So you look at like what the current like standards of the torchbearers at the top are, and you interface that with then also the second thing, which is a needs analysis of the person in front of you. And
Mm.
probably it's nearly more important actually to like find out what's their injury history, what are their goals, what do they want to achieve, like do they want to,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to make nationals, do you want to win the Olympics, do you want to, just like
To
participate
get a
in
better
sport,
idea, yeah.
do you want
Mm.
to, are you like a office worker who wants to get, be able to sustain the intensity of your sport on the weekends,
No.
so all of those things will, factor into like what level of a program is going to be appropriate. And then, from there, we make that needs analysis and, we as best as we can reverse engineer the physical qualities that are needed. So let's say if it's, MMA, they're going to need like strength, power, and endurance, and very
Mm-hmm.
important that they have like all of those things in a plan that's holistically not taking away from their sports practice, because in many sports, as I said in the earlier in the conversation, the skill level is like that's the cream of the crop, so we need to get them. If you're just running them into the ground with fitness sessions and then they're
Mm-hmm.
training like dog shit in the gym, that's not good. That's not
Yeah.
a good strength and conditioning program. It might make you feel good because, oh my God, I made you do such hard stuff and now you're exhausted. No, that's not good programming. Good
Yeah.
programming develops the weak areas that we can't quite hit within sports practice, but
Mm-hmm.
it never takes away from sports practice. Sometimes you might have blocks where, okay, there's trade offs to be made and there's decisions. It's a bit more of a gray area, but overall, that would be my philosophy is, like sports practice trumps all. And hopefully, if you, like, from my perspective, if I can have conversations with the coach from the sports team as well, amazing. Because now I can see what can we together make the overall training blend together. So there is periodization within, this is going to be an easy week. We're going to take a little bit down. Now we're going to build it up and then we peak together. You're going to have that. This is your intensive week. And then we can reduce the risk of overcooking it, because it's no good
Yeah.
if one person on the team is giving a deload and the other coach is running them into the ground. That's like, okay, well, you're not
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
recovering. So if you can have, and this is what professional teams will do, you'll have joined up thinking amongst
Mm-hmm.
strength and conditioning professionals, rehab specialists, psychologists, like sports coaches. All of it needs to gel together. And if that all gels together, then we give ourselves the best chance of peak performance. But
Cool.
other teams, other athletes are also trying to do that. And that's a challenge. Maybe sometimes
Yeah.
you get more of that stuff right and you still lose. You have to still have like your practices it's brutal in sport, like sports cutthroat. Sometimes you do all of the best stuff and the person's fucking better than you. The opponent sometimes is just a mother. Sometimes it's John Jones. You know, sometimes
Yeah.
you're fighting John Jones. Like, okay, you were strong,
Yeah.
you peaked, your training was amazing, your preparation was incredible, your life stress, everything was geared towards. He's a motherfucker. He's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes that happens too. So look, that's maybe the
It's
difference.
that,
Whenever
but
you
that's
ask me,
something
like,
that's out of your control. Yeah.
what's the difference between training like the general population
Mm-hmm.
and athletes? Like with athletes, like sometimes you're going to do all the right things and you won't get the result, and like sometimes it's that kind of emotional intelligence and being able to connect and being able to know when it's time to like pat them on the back and bring them up,
Mm-hmm.
or when it's time to you know tell them like, come on, we need to show a bit more character, a bit more fortitude, and let's move forward. You know, with my general population clients, I'm generally way more on the compassion side of things.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that I'm just a hard ass with athletes, but any athletic endeavor, because it's a competition, there's a performance necessitated by it. And we need to have a certain level of standards.
Yeah.
Within personal lifestyle change too, yes, we need standards as well. But I find like whenever somebody's a private individual coming to me to help them support in their lifestyle, being the harsh judge is never just the effective route. Like normally
Mm.
people are very good at that themselves. So more often than not, I just try and facilitate them, give them space to kind of come to their own conclusion around,
Yeah.
well, okay, if we are doing a good job of nailing, like, well, what's your core belief behind why you want this change? And if they're circling around, and then I just ask them, well, how did that go? How did, this thing that we tried? And like, oh, they didn't get it right. I'm like, okay, well, how does that make you feel? Or then they're like, if they're berating themselves, then a lot of the time, general population clients are more like that. They're just going to be like, get frustrated. And then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, like actually, we set our intention. Maybe we missed the mark, but what's the best approach now? How do you think we can,
Yeah.
get better? And more often than not, it's like, oh, well, actually, whenever I'm not just berated, whenever I'm like, allowed to like talk it out loud, actually, it sounds a lot more simple. I actually should just maybe, cut myself some
Yeah.
slack on this time. And, tomorrow's a new day. Let's, try. Oh, okay. So this was the trigger that made me, cut loose or, whatever. I ate
Yeah.
the fucking box of biscuits, well, maybe yeah, it was quite easy for me to grab the box of biscuits because they were in my cupboard. Maybe if I just don't keep them in the cupboard, then I won't be, I'll at least have to go to the shop and walk and get some steps in if I'm going to do, so like generally if people like talk the situation out loud, they're going to, be able to come to a conclusion. And to a degree, athletes as well will go through that, but there's a lot more of a, I would say, with like say the food and eating lifestyle thing. There's maybe that's more of like an ongoing self perception, self concept thing.
Yeah.
With athletes, like if you lose your fucking opportunity to make the Olympics or the fucking World Chat, like that fucking sucks. That's like a
Yeah.
death, and people
Yeah.
will laugh if they've never done sports, but like it's a process of
Yeah.
grieving. That's like that.
Mm.
Like the appropriate thing now after that isn't for to say like, well, look, now we're going to just get back on what you got to next week, do this, and that. Sometimes sports cutthroat. Sometimes you might have a season that goes on like that. But this is where like coaching differs. Where I would say like sometimes it's okay. I need to just like allow the athlete to grieve a loss and like have that time and less is more maybe for a period
Yeah.
until they can then process it. But um,
That's so cool, man. Like yeah, it's interesting out because I guess with athletes there's a lot more pressure as well, but I guess you
yeah,
learn, right? You learn every day, and it's very cool that you get to do that, like working with the general public and then working with
I love a
athletes.
blend. I love a blend to be
Yeah,
honest now. And actually, I think athletes as well. That's a big thing. They're notoriously more difficult to program for because
for
they're going to
sure.
get
Yeah,
banged up. They're going to fucking have their finger dislocated or fucking this or that, or
yeah,
their fucking ankles rolled, or so you have to write your program in pencil. With general population clients, a lot less so. A lot, there's a lot more leeway for us to,
mm,
explore and have fun with it. Um, and I'm not saying that you can't have fun with athletes programming, but there are certain prerequisites where, like, okay, from our needs analysis of the sport, we need to build your eccentric strength, or we need to build your your top speed. So like, okay, we can have fun with it. We can come up with unique ways, and that's probably the difference maker between bridging the gap between a successful program and like an all right, okay program. Is if
mm,
you can have the athlete also enjoying the training, then
yeah.
beautiful. But look at whenever you're doing athletic shit, there will inherently be like some aspect of monotony because, like I said, whenever you're trying to improve athleticism, like there's certain domains that you want to, and like a lot of the time it's like getting your basics
Yeah.
fucking repetitively correct,
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Ronnie O'Sullivan, my coach Gabriel back in the old jiu-jitsu in Milford
Hmm.
used to say, Ronnie O'Sullivan still has to pot that red ball, he still has to pot like that most basic shot, and you lose that if you don't practice and refine constantly and get obsessed and lose yourself in
Yeah.
the process. That's like the difference between probably the most advanced performers in sport and the non sub elite
Yeah, the
or whatever.
non-sport.
It's
Yeah.
like actually like the most high level. Oftentimes, it's just they do the basics so immaculately well that their percentage of failure rate is like nearly not. It's virtually nothing.
Mm,
So they're just able to jab, boom, boom. It's just like
yeah.
pinpoint, and it's every time, and they know exactly the setup. They've repeated it so many times, and they know every little minutia of like what an opponent's body language might tell them in terms of where they can. So that's the big difference. Being able to
Yeah.
execute and make those micro decisions of the basics at like just faster than any other human. That's like what elite level athletes do.
That's awesome, man. That's pretty cool. Thank you so much.
And look at we can learn as well, like whenever it comes to, general population, you want
Mm,
to live a very good and healthy and balanced life, like just do the bit, eat a balanced diet, get your 10,000 steps,
yeah.
or like get more steps than, whatever you are currently in your probably sedentary lifestyle. Like do 2 sessions a week strength training. Doesn't need to be, but like can you consistently, do them? And like
Do it.
fucking
Yeah.
wow,
Mm,
you do that. That's like that performance mindset. It's like okay, standards,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're just kept,
S-
and then over time that just spirals and spirals and spirals, and then all of a sudden somebody asks you to commit to something or do some project, and like oh, I'm the type of person who sees these standards through. Then you got that confidence because I'm the kind of person who shows up. I'm the, that's the power of like sports, fitness, lifestyle that can bring to all of the rest of your life.
Mm, awesome, man. So, of course, now there's some big changes for you.
Yeah, so we are going to move to Bydgoszcz, a little
Yeah.
city in the north. That's where my girlfriend is from. So it's not that we just picked a random town and said, yeah, let's go to the fourth biggest place in Poland. Uh, but yeah, gonna go there. I've been trying to learn the language, so
Mm-hmm.
umiem język polski. You'll probably
Nice.
see some marketing coming through another very difficult language
Yeah.
hitting your screen soon. But yeah, that's the plan for now anyway. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to go there, and yeah, I want to continue my work coaching. I've started kind of doing a lot more online coaching, trying to be able to give myself some customers for whenever I move there so I can
Yeah.
already have some work and money, which is quite important, I hear, in Poland to have money. They
Yeah, I
like
can
it,
imagine. Yeah.
probably everywhere else as well, but
Yeah.
not just a Poland thing. But yeah, that's overall the plans. Plans to
That's awesome, man.
take on a
And
new country, take on a new
do
me.
you do you are you going to work in a gym as well, or?
Yeah, so I've located a gym that looks promising now to work out of. It's a sports performance facility there too. So I'll maybe not drop the announcements just yet until we fully negotiated everything. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it looks promising that we'll make some collaboration with also a good sports performance type facility there. So that's some exciting prospects and work
Awesome.
with some local athletes, hopefully. And
Yeah.
also even just, as I say, some general population folks as well, because I do enjoy that type of work too. And that's kind of the overall plan. Yeah, I'm trying to like grow my online side of things. In the interim, I'm expecting, look at building a client base is quite a slow cooker, and especially because I've had
Yeah.
such a, I've grown a very successful, thankfully, business here in Budapest. That's going to be challenging and emotional to walk away from that as well. But with the time that it takes to grow a client base in Poland, I'll
Mm.
be trying to maybe make some more moves in terms of maybe selling programming and that type of stuff online. So you can watch out for stuff like that in the pipeline as well.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. So I guess you'll be keeping a few clients from Budapest, right? Online.
Yeah, I'll be keeping. I mean, yeah, that's one thing that's been quite nice about, and I think also I take quite a lot of confidence out of is I would have quite
Mm.
a high client retention rate, and not
Yeah.
necessarily. I mean, look at people always they'll come and they'll go, or they'll only have the intention to have a few trainings here and there. But overall, like even I've had clients that moved to Denmark back home and stayed working with me online in that capacity. I've had clients move back to Ireland, or move across the globe, but still,
Yeah.
even though the geographical distance, or even recently there's a lady in Switzerland, so that's moved away from Budapest. So I think that gives me confidence that I'm doing at least something right whenever people are even leaving the country and they still,
Mm.
want to collaborate and work together and continue the journey. I think that's a positive for sure. So that's something that I love as well, because of course goodbyes are always hard as well.
I know,
But
right? Yeah, I can imagine.
I'm very happy now in my work, and I love working with people. I love getting to know people and seeing what their challenges are, and then seeing them, make strides
Mm.
about, achieving them. So that's, I feel very privileged to work and do the work that I do. And yeah, I've had like one or two people ask me like, "Oh, and what are you just going to do the same in Poland?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's not like a question. It's like, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I would
yeah,
never see myself,
not
so maybe
do
like
that. Yeah.
also I don't want to pigeonhole myself and be just, identified or whatever with career as well, because there are definitely lots of other aspects as well to me to life. I like, learning languages, which is another challenge as well, going, and coaching through other languages and stuff. So I'll think all of that kind of stuff, and absorbing different cultures, travel. There's a lot of other things that I want to get out of life as well. So looking forward to, hopefully tackling them all.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. That's such a good prospect of. Um, it's a big change, but I'm sure you'll be doing just fine.
Yeah,
Um, and hopefully, you'll get a big house so we can come and visit you.
absolutely. Don't worry. Two
Um,
bedrooms is for sure. Yeah, yeah.
nice.
We'll
Yeah,
all have
man. That's
the Legrand suite.
yeah, sweet. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sweet, sweet.
the sweet suite.
Nice. But
Yeah,
yeah, man, I mean, again, like I think, of course, at first it might be a little bit difficult, but you've done the
yeah.
same
Um,
in Budapest. You came all the way from Ireland.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so I'm sure that it'll be a similar
Yeah,
kind
I
of
won't lie. Look, whenever I first moved from Ireland to Hungary, I was shitting myself, and
yeah, of
whenever I
course, man.
signed up for a marathon, shitting myself.
Yeah, of
It's the
course.
same
I'm
thing.
still
I would be lying if I didn't say there is
yeah,
some excrement
yeah.
evacuating
Exactly,
my
mate. You have
underpants
to. I mean,
as we speak. But that's the kind of goals
I'm
that
still
they
I'm still
you can get
shitting
up for.
myself as we speak.
There you go. I mean, like, you think I'm getting taller? The amount of shit, it's just I'm
I
levitating.
mean, this is my first podcast, man, and of course it's been a pleasure to have you. And
Yeah,
I was shitting myself at first,
yeah. Well, look
but
at you.
it's fun because
I respect and admire, it takes balls to like put yourself out there to engage in, like anything online. I've certainly like dealt with it this year, that was something classically I really wouldn't have been like, I think just my nature, like I wouldn't have been super confident in myself or like kind of, that like I definitely think I naturally maybe am like maybe a little bit more extroverted, but I feel that from childhood, just certain
Yeah.
experiences and narratives that I let seep into myself. I never like
Mm.
bought into, my own value or anything. And then like I always would have had that same reticence to put myself out there, or whatever. And like I think for sure, like it takes balls, and especially, if you're on the more kind of self-critical side of things, that's like more the nature, then yeah, it fucking is. It is. You do be shitting yourself, whenever you put
Yeah.
yourself out there. But then like at the end of the day, I look at since I posted as well stuff more online. Yeah, you get some people that are just fucking saying like, "Oh my God, you're terrible." People that say like, "Oh my God," like I had some Hungarian trainer like share one of my things and
Yeah.
say, "Oh my God, look, this trainer needs a trainer," or like, "Geez, oh, he needs," and just like look like blood pressure and steroids whenever you click onto his page. But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you're gonna get fucking people that
Man,
are gonna
haters
say
gonna be haters, right?
haters
Like
going to hate, and like that's just a
yeah,
thing on the internet.
it's
Like, I mean,
one
but
thing
yeah, and
exactly, but
especially with the polarization, like no wonder the political spheres are polarized. Like I post like
I
a
know it's
video
crazy.
on my YouTube of like a leg extension in the machine, and like someone's like, "They're bad for your knees. Do squats instead." I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like I did. Nobody
Yeah.
asked. Nobody. I love squats as well. I'm in favor of squats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um.
It's crazy,
So
man.
like
Like
yeah, look at whenever you go anything online, you're going to get fucking people, shitheads that, know nothings, and like a lot of the time you click on, it's like, okay, this might be a thought, or this is just somebody who, if this person accosted me in the street, would I give one fuck? Like,
yeah,
first of all, they probably
exactly.
never would because they're just like fucking, neckbeard motherfucker who
Yeah,
shouldn't, they
exactly.
probably don't fucking leave the house too often. And, usually if they're spreading hate like that, it's just like, completely unwarranted or unsolicited.
Yeah,
Like
that's it, man.
you know,
I'm the same as well, I like when I was younger, I used to be afraid of what people thought of me, etc. But at the end of the day, I
yeah,
don't give a shit, man. Like you do what you want, and as long as you're happy, and that's it.
yeah, absolutely.
It's
But
nice,
then,
but it's yeah. There's always, and also there's always a start to everything. As they say, like the first podcast will be shit. I mean,
hey,
not
you
shit, but
you
like
came to the right guy. If you wanted a
yeah,
shit first podcast, I'll tell you.
yeah, exactly. But I mean,
I'm your
your first podcast will
man.
be shit. Yeah, your
Like
first
Ben
podcast
hits
will
me
be
up.
shit.
Hey, do you
The
want to do
second
shit
one might be
together?
better. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but unless you
I
come
know
to
a
me, man,
guy who is very comfortable
every
with
single
being shit on the internet.
yeah. It's not just my third podcast, by the way. It'll be my 10th podcast. It'll still be shit. So just make sure you still come and watch
Don't
me.
worry, I can do repeat appearances. I am consistently shit. I will be shit in the
Yeah.
10th one as I was today, as I will be
There's
in the
no
future.
there's no end to my shitness,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah. There is no end. This is like a fucking diarrhea of shitness.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Welcome
Endless.
to my show. So yeah, man. So thank you so much for joining, dude. I really appreciate your
Well, we
time.
ended on diarrhea, so I feel we've covered it all
Yeah,
today.
perfect. Awesome, man. But yeah,
No.
thank you so much. I really appreciate talking to you, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you for having me, brother. No, I really appreciate what you've
You're
done. I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate, that you came out to support me during the marathon in Vienna. I got to meet my mom,
yeah.
got to meet my family. I think, yeah, I really appreciate your friendship and I wish you all the best with your shit podcast. I hope that
Thank you very
it
much,
gets
mate.
less shit and it certainly will whenever you have somebody else other than me coming on. So,
Yeah,
for sure, it's only
exactly.
uphill for this podcast from here.
Absolutely, yeah. Maybe I should do a podcast with you, just like you and I. Every episode will be just like you and I to make sure it's not shit.
There you go. Well, it'll be just the same level of shit, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
I mean, maybe
Doesn't get any
we
better
could
or any worse.
theoretically get less shit over time, but let's not count our
Yeah, that's
hens
what we're
before
aiming
they,
for.
let's
Exactly.
not count the chickens.
Cool, man. Well, thank you so much, dude. And I will
Appreciate it, buddy.
catch you at some point. Cheers, man. Take care. Bye.
Hey, take care.